Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Sal, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer.
Let's take a minute to hear about today's sponsors.
Hey guys, Bobby from the Hazmat Guys here, and this episode is brought to you by FLIR Systems. If you're not sure about your white powder is fentanyl, or maybe you suspect that you have an explosive hazard, or you need to confirm that the leaking barrel is toxic, the FLIR Griffin G510 GCMS is your go-to for next-level on-scene chemical identification. Mounted in your vehicle or carried to the point of sample collection, it is always ready. Using the built-in touchscreen, start the method wizard to help you select the best method for the mission. If you have no time, no lab, it's no problem. You can quickly identify unknown chemicals with accuracy. To learn more, go to FLIR.com/G510, or that's FLIR, FLIR.com/G510.
Let's get to the show.
Hey everybody, Bobby here from the Hazmat Guys, and welcome. Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
we're switching up the who does the opening. So
it's really weird.
I was just listening to it, being like, okay.
All right. So, just a couple things to get out of the way before we get into our topic. Continuing challenge once again is going to be next week. That's going to be getting that award, which is pretty cool.
Yes. And then we've got.
I don't know if we've. What's that?
I was going to say, we kind of have a break until January, right? We could do the hot zone, but we're apparently we're not.
We're not. More about that soon. I don't know where the cards will fall on that one, but there seems to be a paperwork mix up or something like that on their end. So 2 for 2 with that one. So. But there is something that's coming up that's kind of unique. We've been alluding to it for a little while. We have, I guess, partnered up with Federal Resources to offer a class, and it's debuting in Florida.
Yeah, we're having our kind of like our opening, our kind of peek behind the curtains look, the class that is, hey, come and check it out and let us know what you think, right? This is the one that's kind of open to critique. It's free. You just got to kind of get down there. And it is open to anyone who wants to enroll if the class is not already full. I actually know several people who are like, I am totally going to this. So it'll be fun to meet some friends. But yeah, we're trying to come up with some classes. We're trying to innovate the way we learn. And to bring a level of entertainment and understanding that is just different from what we're used to.
Yeah, it's called modular metering, right? And it's like, I guess for lack of a better, it's like Chinese food menu ordering kind of thing where you say, well, my department has PID and I have electrochemical and I have NDIR. And so we literally click together those modules and build you a day.
Right. And then when we talk about those meters, we're able to talk about them not only separate, but then we will talk about them as a group based upon how your team is going to respond to various things, right? We're not going to sit and talk about how to tie in a PID with a GCMS if you don't have a GCMS.
Right.
Like, that the scenario just wouldn't allow for. We want to make sure that it becomes very team specific. If all you guys have is a 4-gas, a PID, and an AP4C, then let's hit the ground running with those, 3 or 4 different technologies, and we'll come together and create a learning experience that hopefully you guys can have pretty good takeaway.
Yeah, so I think spots are filling up. If you guys want to get into it, just contact us at info@thehazmatguys.com or Federal Resources. They operators are standing by, from what I understand, to take positions for that one. But one last thing I want to mention before we get into this thing is that we just came back yesterday from Massachusetts Hazmat Conference, and we debuted the escape room.
Ooh, was it a hit?
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. It was quite the buzz there. The first day we were doing 30 guys in a room, and
It was hot.
It was
hot.
It was hot in the room, but whatever. It really went over well, and word on the street there was another one that was surprisingly being debuted around the same time, and well, I guess imitation is a form of flattery or something like that.
I guess so. But if you can imagine what is involved with this, you can imagine who would potentially really be able to make it incredible. And that's what we plan on doing. It has definitely cleared as a really good foundational learning tool. We learned a tremendous amount watching everybody go through it and doing the clues and just sitting and listening to how people think and how they talk and how they take the information, and how they work together, how they don't work together, how they bring in bias into all of this. It was really cool. So if you get the chance to come out and do one of these escape rooms with us, it's definitely phenomenal.
They wouldn't copy if it sucked.
No, definitely not.
All right. Anyway, so this topic, and it's probably going to be a couple of episodes. I'm guessing it's going to be, what, 2 to 3 episodes, Mike?
I would say 2 to 3. It's an easy topic. It's a difficult topic. It's a topic that has a tremendous amount of details because it's easy, yet so many things that are easy in life, the devil is in the details.
Right. So we are going to be talking about handling and classifying and characterizing unknowns, and we're talking like street level chemistry. A lot of this stuff is used in other processes and kits, we'll say, but it's not like they own the idea. It's like you're building a cookie.
Yeah.
Right? A recipe is a recipe. You can't patent a cookie.
Right. You don't need a kit to see if a solid is soluble.
No, just put it in water.
Put it in water, right? You don't.
You
You can do a flame test with a match. There's a proper procedure. I wouldn't go up to a 250-gallon tote and throw a match in it to see if it's flammable. And those kits definitely allow you the ability to do it easily and professionally. But if you don't have the kit, you can still do a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about. All too often, we use our meters. We blindly go in and we go about trying to put the unknown that we find on the street into like a category, right? Because we're not always able to identify it as one of the 17 million chemicals that are out there.
Right. In class, we talk about this all the time. We talk about verify your results with 3 different resources. And truth be told, I mean, who really does that anymore?
I don't.
I'll be honest, I really don't. Maybe two.
I think if we're going to create an operation or a major decision based upon like a key bit of information from our meters, then we'll turn around and we'll really kind of make sure that meter was correct. But I think just in general, like, we have oxygen meters. We don't use other technologies to test to make sure the oxygen is still good.
Good point.
So this is not one of those hard and fast rules. It's kind of one of those like, all right, listen, like, understand that there are reasons why your meter may not be telling you the truth. So don't really rely on it as heavily as, oh, this is a guarantee.
Right. And one of those things that we use, and it's kind of like a advanced hack, is like cross sensitivities, which is something that the ERDSS, the chemical companion, is incredible about. And if you haven't seen it, go to our YouTube channel. We have 2 now videos. The second one will be coming out like in the next week or so. Cross sensitivities. What do we know about cross sensitivities?
All right, so cross sensitivity, like you said, it's kind of a hack, and for a long time we feel like the cross sensitivity was kind of like pushed off to the side, like they were like, meter manufacturers would be like, oh, hey, listen, like this is our CO meter and it tests for CO. And oh, by the way, there's a small possibility that it might pick up these things. And we were like, oh, okay, fine, no problem. But we've really come to embrace cross sensitivity as a tool that we can use. And basically what it is it is that technology picking up other chemicals besides what its target chemical is. And there can be a whole slew of reasons why this happens, right? With electrochemical sensors, you have very similar reactions going on. So one chemical that will react similar to another chemical will also react that same way inside the sensor. You have, what is the APD2000? What was that?
That's corona discharge?
No, not coronal discharge. The ion, is it ion spectrum? Ion mobile
mobility?
spectroscopy. Yes.
Yeah.
So
IMS.
with that one, as long as it has the same weight and the same charge, and it can float down the drift tube at the same time, then it's going to come up as like a nerve agent. So these are all cross sensitivities that we can use to our advantage if we understand how. And that program that Bob was talking about is mind-blowing when it comes to like using cross sensitivities as not only as just like a tool, but as a mainstay of trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Now, a single meter or even a signal sensor could be off, right? And it's an ability to pick up a reading. So one of the things that it could be off with is, hey, maybe it wasn't calibrated. Like, no. yeah, they could be and it could be off calibration because of things like they dropped it. Like they did some physical harm to it. It's not impossible.
Yeah, or the last run that they had, they just overexposed it to something. Right? So It's not just that date on the side. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why stuff could be out of calibration. You could be dealing with sensor drift, right? Just as the sensor itself becomes old, this is especially true in like electrochemical sensors, they tend to just kind of, drift back and forth a little and give you erroneous readings.
Right. Or even poisonings, right? So if you get like silicones on some or phosphine on others, they coat the lens or whatever, you could be off on your stuff. And that's why we might have some difficulties in doing this.
Right. Different technologies have various strengths and weaknesses in what they do. And we can use this to our advantage, but we also have to understand that this is why 1 meter isn't always the best.
So this might be one of the challenges, and this is one of the big challenges that we have when we are trying to categorize. And when I mean that, I mean, is it a flammable? Like, I'm always, when I say categorization, I'm always thinking about, okay, can I fit it into one of the 9 placards? That's my categorization, because basically all the placards are handled generally the same, right? I mean, and ashamedly, I'll say this, guys, we were talking about this recently with a few friends, and we were like, okay, it's a corrosive, and they're like, okay, and they put the meters down, and I'm like, the corrosives can liberate hydrogen.
Right. It can do so much more, so we need to understand what kind of acid or what kind of pH a little bit better than it is.
Right, so we have to use other evidence, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the whole key to kind of what we talk about when we're going about and we're doing these classes. Is it's not just one thing. Like, hazmat is never like a one key, one piece, oh, eureka, I figured it out type of a thing. So another reason that we kind of blindly go in and try to figure out these unknowns is the perception that we're going to be successful in this, right? And this is pushed in 2 different ways. One is the onus that we put on us to do this, right? We are kind of generally alpha-ish and up to a challenge, and we kind of really don't ever give up, and we kind of push ourselves to make an identification, right? Because like Bob said, we generally try to classify, but let's be real, like we all will try to push as much as we can to not only classify but be like, hey, out of those 17 million chemicals we were talking about, I figured out what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, but what are you going to say? Well, with the hazmat, you guys can't even figure out what you can't do your job.
Right.
What it really comes down to, right?
Right.
But even by the incident commander, right? The incident commander has brought you to the scene. He's seen you pull up with 11 billion different trucks with $1 million worth of mobile labs and thousands of hours of training and millions of dollars of equipment. You should be able to figure it out, right? And it's like, yeah, we try.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
we can't always come out with it.
Can't always come out with it. And that's tough, man. But at least if we're trying to identify and all we can do is fall back on a category, that's better than nothing.
Totally. Hey guys, you've heard us talk about First Line Technologies' Dahlgren Decon solution and their FiberTech wipes and mitts. Well, they've had a lot of their customers ask them to provide in-depth training on using Dahlgren Decon, FiberTech wipes, as well as their various kits, and now they've created a First Line Utilization Academy to deliver the range of classes designed to improve their students' knowledge of hybrid decontamination. They have a special comprehensive Train the Trainer course designed to prepare trainers and hazmat team leaders to return to their organizations and conduct training. The participants in this course will receive a template lesson plan, a presentation they can use to train their teams, and a quick reference book they can use in the field. Now, class size for the Train the Trainer class is limited to 6 to 8 participants, and classes fill up fast, so reserve your desired training date today. They will also conduct customized on-site classes to entire teams to give everybody both classroom instruction and hands-on experience in using Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes for hybrid decontamination. Call the guys at First Line Technology for more information or to register for a class at 703-955-7510 or email them at training@firstlinetech.com. All right, let's pick up where we left off.
We also have like a plethora of meters out there, especially within like the past 5 to 10 years, that are giving us results or trying to do that process of identifying for us. And they kind of break down into 4 different, like how they give us the results type of a thing, right? You have these sets of meters that are like, or you have these times that you're on scene and you get a hit and you're like, it's 100% sure. Like this meter is positively 100 correct, and everybody like parties and everyone takes a deep breath and they're like, oh, thank God it's just lactose. It's not it's not heroin, it's not fentanyl, it's just, and everyone just kind of like takes a deep breath and we're like, okay, this is cool. This is definitely one of like my favorites because most of the 100% sure hits that we get on any of these meters, they happen most often when the sales guy is sitting in the kitchen of the firehouse with his giant package of chemicals to show us how absolutely incredible this meter is. Right, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
And
that's when I break out my pack of chemicals.
Right. And then we have our stuff that we've taken from every scene that we've been on for the past, 15 years, and we play a little like shock the sales guy. But they pull out their exact, chemical, and everything is read properly, and you're like, oh my God, this is absolutely incredible. And then it doesn't necessarily work like that all the time.
Right, and the problem sometimes is that those chemicals that they're bringing in are not always pure.
The ones that we're bringing in. The ones that we're testing.
The ones I'm bringing in. I apologize. Yeah, so, and then the next one it could be is that it's 100% not sure. Right, and you get this in other technologies. I'll say like Raman and FTIR. It usually pops when it gives us like a list of possibilities, and it'll give it like a grade. Like, yeah, I'm 88% sure on this and 62% sure on that. And people misinterpret that all the time. It's like, oh, it's 88% that and 67%. No, those numbers don't add up to 100% of what you have there, and yeah, you don't know your meter.
Right. and there's all different ways. We could talk about going into and looking at spectrums and all this other stuff, but the 100% not sure definitely confuses people from time to time. And this happens especially when you start dealing with mixtures, whether you know it's a mixture or not. Remember, we're talking about unknowns. So sometimes we don't even know that it's a mixture. and you're putting stuff on, these devices, and they're coming back 100% not sure. Hey, it could be this, it could be this. Well, maybe it's both.
Right.
And that's where we have to start digging into the resource end of all of this to get the other puzzles. If you put a chemical, let's say, on an FTIR, and you get a couple different possibilities back, you got to start doing some research on that chemical, because if it's a white powder and the chemical physical properties of two of those chemicals tell you that it's a yellow, cakey, flaky solid, then that's not what you have. So again, everything is just a piece to the puzzle. All right. There's also, with these meters, there's the probability that it matches something in the library, and this kind of goes back to the cross sensitivity that we're talking about, right? For some reason, this meter gets a hit that, hey, this is very similar to this.
Right, but it's not that.
But it's not that.
Right, and that might be based just on like a functional group, right? It might say, hey, listen, this is something in the ketone family, or this is something in the, I don't know, alcohol family. And you might be like, all right, great, but that really didn't tell me much. It tells you a good amount, because you got to play the hot cold game as well. Like Mike said, you got to kind of say, well, if it looks like a dog, barks like a dog, it's in that group. And okay, am I categorizing it? And I think for the most part, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you have a good understanding of the chemistry and what different functional groups do, which is why functional groups are so important, you can then turn around and start to, instead of identify, categorize based upon some of your spectrums. But
right, yeah.
The thing is that a lot of these depend on a few key points, right, that are going to give you the best shot at figuring the whole thing out. So things like the tools that we use to help us find the pieces of that jigsaw puzzle in the run. Everything that kind of gives us a clue as to what it is that we're dealing with.
Right. And so I would say one of the biggest things when we get there is reading the environment, right? Until we actually get there, it is a true unknown.
Right. Even if we're giving information on the way.
Totally. Because how often is that information incorrect? How often is the quantity incorrect? How often is... So I play it like, all right, I'm going to start preparing like it's a flammable, but I can very well pull up, and this could be a corrosive. This could be totally different. So reading the environment is very important. It's the difference between one sick person, or a factory full of sick people, or an office building with 60 floors full of sick people, or an apartment building. There's differences in between each one. An apartment building, they're there for long durations. Factories or office buildings, they're only there for shorter durations. If I have one sick person, maybe they brought it to work sick. Do you see what I'm saying? So like there's different durations of time, and that says, is it acute or is it chronic,
right,
to me?
And even the place that it is can help determine what the possibility of the chemical is, right? If you're in a factory, then you're surrounded by chemicals, and there's a really good chance it's going to be one of the ones around you. Whereas if you're in an apartment building, you're probably going to be doing a little bit more searching, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right? Like, how many times have we been in apartment buildings trying to figure out what that smell is, or where that pungent odor is coming from? It becomes like this mess where we have that same type of thing in a factory, and it's so easy because they hand us all the chemicals, we look through and we're like, oh, this is the one that fits it. Okay, what meters do we have that's going to pick this up? Let's break them all out. Yep, this is what it was. Let's find the source and let's shut it down. So, yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of knowing where you are and not making assumptions as to what happened, right? And a lot of that can go into play by doing an interview of the people around you. When we turn around and we evaluate a lot of like full scenario type things, it's amazing how many people just walk right into and start doing the hazmat stuff. Nobody interviews patients. Nobody's interviewing people on scene to kind of get a big picture of what happens. And one of my favorite stories behind this is a run that one of our bosses had, and he talks about a lot, where they came in and it was multiple people sick in an apartment, and there was this black gook coming up from the pipes, the sewage, and it had backflowed into the toilet. It backflowed into the tub. It was in the sink. It was all the stuff. Everybody was sick. First due units get there. They evacuate because they have just no idea what's going on. They literally they pulled out the whole building because stuff is coming up from the cesspool, and nobody interviewed the patients until hazmat got there. So once they got there, they did an evaluation of the building. They looked around. They took their meter readings. Everything seemed pretty stable. They weren't getting anything on any of their meters. They started to interview the people that were actually sick. And it turns out that nobody realized that all the black stuff in all of the tub, the toilet, and the sink was vomit.
Oh.
So it wasn't the black stuff coming up from the toilet and the piping, which is what the first due units assumed because nobody asked the question. It turned out that everybody ate something that got everybody sick, and they ended up putting that black stuff into the sink and the toilet and the pipes, and that totally changed the run.
Right, and sometimes the interviews or the scenario is not making sense with what you're seeing, your observations, and being a part of the hazmat team is being part of the detectives, right? You have to if there can't be CO if there's nowhere for it to be made. Right? You got to think of it like that. So if it doesn't look like a duck and it doesn't quack like a duck, then it's probably not a duck. And so sometimes you have to think about this a little differently. Now, there's different layers to this where there's more to meet the eyes. But for the most part, if the answers don't fit the scene, then be suspicious. It's okay to be suspicious.
Yeah.
And be careful of that confirmation bias.
I was just going to say that. Damn it, you beat me to the punch.
Be careful. I just talked about this yesterday in Massachusetts, where you got to be careful because you get that whole, well, it's a CO run. Let me just keep, even if things are not plugging into CO, I'm going to smash that round peg into the square hole until it is a CO run.
Right. And if you just scratched your head going, what the hell is confirmation bias? You need to do two things. One, you need to go find our episode in which we talk about this. And then you need to come to one of the conferences where we talk about confirmation bias and how that plays into the whole scene. So those are your two homework assignments if you don't know what confirmation bias is. You have to have some knowledge and confidence to do this, right? You're walking into a building, there's people sick, everything's going on. It can be chaotic, it could just be very laid back, and you have to be able to be confident in what you're doing. There is going to be a certain level of expectation on you, and that can build up pressure. And if you allow that pressure to get to you, you could cut corners and you can make mistakes. So trust in your knowledge and your ability and work confidently.
Right, and that's your personal thing. But on the outside, the existential part of it is that you have to have either bosses and chiefs that do trust that either you, company, or you, hazmat tech, can actually pull this off.
Yeah.
That's as important, and that's a two-way street. They have to have respect for you, and you have to have respect for them to pull this thing off successfully.
Right. And part of having that respect and that confidence is knowing that you know how to interpret the results that are in front of you. And when I say you, I'm not talking about like you, the jackass with the headphones listening to this podcast. I'm talking about like you as the team, because this process should not just rest on one person's shoulders. Your entire team should know the results of all the readings that were going on, all the tests that were performed. Everybody should be on the same page so you can work together.
Yeah, so when we're searching a building and we're done with the readings, you got to report back to your resource, your science, your tech ref, whatever you call those guys, and gather all that intel into one spot. Because if the entry team is holding some key pieces and command doesn't know it, the command and resource should be in close proximity.
I agree 100%.
You know, like all too often, I don't want to be next to the chief. The chief doesn't want to be next to a firefighter, and they're like, "Yeah, go stand over there." Meanwhile, that guy with the clipboard and the headphones on, that's resource, has probably the most information of anybody on the operation. And if anybody needs it, it's the command post to make the new tactical decisions based on those overarching strategies.
Right, because hopefully your resource person is also somebody with significant amount of time and can turn around and decrypt what is going on to this guy. And then finally, it's that hazmat huddle. Right? And that puts everybody on the same page. We talk about this over and over and over again. We talk about it in the Chief We're Going to Crash lecture that we do. The hazmat huddle puts everyone on the same page, and more importantly, it allows ideas to flow through the team. I can't tell you how many times we've tried to figure something out, and just by having an 8-way conversation with everybody, we've kind of figured it out. And there have been times where the most stupid idea that somebody said ended up leading to the correct answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
It just happens.
Now, I do want to say this as we're wrapping up this episode, and trust me, there is much more to be said about this. We're not going to be able to get into the nuances of and the techniques of like sampling. Right, I think there's a little bit more hands-on, maybe a little video component to that, if we were to get into that. But there are tremendous classes that are already established that are out there, and I don't really know if we would do justice to it if we sit there and just describe in word format where you can get your hands on and actually practice it. It is a tactical skill.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys, and take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484.
And we are always looking forward to your feedback about information or interesting incidents that you were a part of, so send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job, get into the job.